projects and colour. So if you are embarking on a renovation, I'm just going to take myself off the camera there, just making sure that we are turning live. Sometimes we have a little bit of technical difficulties, but as I was saying, if you're embarking on a renovation or a particular project that you'd like some help with, you've come to the right place. If you're having some trouble, selecting that perfect white and you're looking for some colour advice, we can help you with that as well. And most importantly, we have an amazing range of products, a wonderful portfolio of products which have been designed to protect and beautify your space that are going to help you to bring your project to life. So for those joining us for the very first time, I'll let you know how our session rolls. So for the first half an hour, I will be here in front of the camera and we're streaming live, and it's a great opportunity for you to ask any questions that you do have, as I've just talked about on, colour, projects, product, etc., and pop your questions into the feed and I'll do my very best to answer them for you. If you're wanting to share images with us, which I know a lot of you like to, share some photos so that we can see, what you're wanting to bring to life. If you can hold off popping the photos into the feed until we finish streaming, because unfortunately, while we are live, basically it's impossible for you to pop any images into our Facebook feed. But you can do that once we finish streaming, because I sit back for a further half an hour or so, sometimes an hour if not longer, and continue to answer your questions, and I'll certainly have a look at the images then. So that's how the session rolls. So as I said, it's been a little bit of a while. Usually we meet here every Thursday night, but I've been travelling interstate and I was lucky enough to pick up something from being interstate, which left me with very minimal voice. So I had to stay away from here for a couple of weeks, unfortunately. But anyway, we're back tonight. So tonight I'm going to talk, I'm going to bring to life questions that you have. Look, each and every week we look at all of our social media channels and we take the most frequently asked questions and we like to bring them to life on a Thursday evening, because we feel that, this session is all about you and we like to keep it real. So we love to answer your questions. So I'm going to start this evening. I've got quite a few questions here, and we did have quite a few questions put into our posts that we had online. So I'll start answering some questions, but as I said, it's a great opportunity now that we're live for you to pop any questions you do have into the feed, and I'll get to those as well. Okay, so let me just have a look here. So the first question that I have has come from Charles. Thank you, Charles, for popping your question into our feed. So you have said that you're now leaning towards Taubmans White House, as we suggested, as it's more of a neutral than a cooler colour, and believe it's more suits my idea to separate the wall and ceiling. And he's up very wonderfully popped an image into the feed previously, which is great. And it says, here is a picture of the room I'm painting. Do you think White House will match well with the brick feature wall and the dark floorboards? And can you tell me what colours are used in White House? Okay, so White House is a wonderful white. And it's a very soft white, and it depends on how you're lighting, etc. Look, one of the big things, and I love to bring this to everyone's attention, when you are looking for whites and when you're beginning your colour journey perhaps at a Taubmans colour wall, it's fantastic to go pre-armed. And what I mean by that is, like, when you're viewing whites, just putting them on top of various white colour chips is only going to sort of confuse the issue. So here's my advice. Go pre-armed, take a white piece of computer paper with you, and that's going to act as a wonderful backdrop. And as you start to put your whites that you're looking at from the colour wall, you can start to see the undertone come to life when it's against a pure white background. Now, the other thing you can do as well is, when you visit our colour wall, have a look at a colour that is called Brilliant White. That is, and I mean no disrespect when I say this, that is our stock standard white in the can. It's a beautiful white, contains to get that beautiful great white to start with, the white contains a lot of titanium dioxide, which makes it really white. So putting your colour that you're looking up against a Brilliant White colour chip is going to also help you to see the undertone in the colour. So White House is a very adaptable colour, and I don't know whether you're going to be able to see it really well here because we're lit up like a Christmas tree in here. This is White House here, and look, it looks fantastic, and when we start to play with colours and we look at the undertones that exist within whites, so you can break them into three categories. You can look at whites can be either, a warmer undertone. So start to think of, and the easiest way for me to describe a warmer white would be to reference it having that sort of creamy undertone. And then you've got a cooler white, which tends to have more of a bluer undertone. And then you have a neutral style white, which tends to have look, it can range from anything from a sort of a beigey, sort of slight greeny with a slight hint of greeny grey sort of undertone. And when you start playing within that neutral space, when you're looking at whites, it's a really good place to start, because being a neutral undertone, it tends to sit and work with many other elements. So in answer to Charles' question, a white house is going to work really well with your timber and also your brick. I think you're making a really fantastic choice there. And to tell you what colours are used in white house, I would have to have a look in our tinting software. I can't actually do that right at this point in time, but I can certainly do that later and pop it into the feed for you. I hope that helps. Thank you. The next question I have is, this was also accompanied with an image, and it says, I'm wanting to know a good white for exterior like my photo below. So that goes with Monument Colour Bond, please. So it's a beautiful sort of almost industrial modern style home that is clad in, I'm looking at it as I'm trying to describe it as I'm looking at it for you all there. It's clad in Colour Bond Monument. This is what I can see from a very small image. There may be a lot more detail to it. But you know, when you're working with Monument, if you're not sure where to start, because Monument being a Colour Bond colour, you can start with the Colour Bond range. They are designed to work together. And there's a fantastic white called Surf Mist. And when they are put together, they sing. And the beauty of using, look, Surf Mist would be my recommendation, or one of the recommendations we could make. Surf Mist is a fantastic white, given that it has, you know, if I were to put that up against a white piece of paper now, you'd look at it and go, that doesn't look white. However, when you start putting whites outside in an external environment, whites perform differently as they do internally. So whites tend to, I like to use the term, they tend to bleach out. So they tend to lighten up in the sun. And a white that may look, you know, on a chip, you may look at it and go, that looks too dark, I really want a white, will lighten right up. So it's really important to understand how whites are going to work in an external application. And the best advice I can give you is, there's a couple of things. One is every colour has what's called an LRV, which is a light reflectance value. And very easy to find information on all of our colours. You can find them on our website. You can look at our colours. All of the information is there. And in particular an LRV. It's also on the back of every fan deck that we have. So if you're shopping for colour, you're in perhaps a Bunnings store, one of the friendly team members would be able to let you have a look at a fan deck, and you'd be able to have a look on the back of a particular colour and find the LRV then and there. So the LRV, when you're looking at colours, and if you're wondering at home, okay, I want to paint the exterior of my house white, what's a good white to use? Referencing the LRV can assist you. So you can look for colours or whites that sit within a space of around about 65 to 75, pushing it to 80. And so on an external facade, and what I mean by that, like that colour, that ratio, or that gap, that number, the number ratio, looking at numbers between that space, it's going to ensure that when you put it outside, it's not going to be too glary. So when I look at something like Surf Mist sits at an LRV of around about 67. Now, when you put that outside, that becomes quite white. And we are in the process at the moment of painting our house, the external facade of our house, and we're painting it Surf Mist. And you know, it does look white. It's a fantastic colour. It's a great place to start. The other thing I recommend is that you get yourself a sample pot. It's the best thing that you can do. And when you're perhaps in a Bunnings store, like when all of our paint comes into the store, it comes on pallets, and in between each layer of paint is what is called a pallet liner. Now they're large pieces of cardboard. what I would do is, you know, go and ask one of the friendly paint team members in Bunnings if you can have a palette liner. And what you want to do is cut yourself 1 metre by 1 metre square of cardboard and put 3 coats of your desired white onto that cardboard, obviously allowing drying time in between. And then once your sample is dry, taking it outside and having a look in areas. So a couple of areas you want to look at is areas that are, you know, drenched in sun, because that's going to allow you to see how that white's going to perform in full sun. Because the last thing you want to do is going outside, you know, first thing in the morning, you know, and you've got a one of the areas that you like to sit and have a cup of tea and, you know, is drenched in that morning sun. The last thing you want to have to do is put your sunglasses on. So you want to try and omit having glare. And then the other place also to test it is areas that lack sunlight. I think it's really important to see how the white's going to perform sort of in that space as well. Not only white's really important as well when you're looking at colour, to see how colours perform in an external application. And then the reverse, if we're going to be looking at whites for the interior of your home, testing your colours inside. So test your outside colours outside. I know that sounds like common sense, but you know, it's quite easy just to lay your colours out on your dining table and go, yeah, I really like that, I think that's going to work. You want to see it outside. And the same for your interior colours, testing them inside, you know, doing the same thing with that large piece of cardboard, but testing it. There's a couple of areas. So here's your floor, here's your wall. Putting your sample of painted cardboard up against your wall so that it's touching the floor. So then you can see, for example, things like if you've got timber flooring can influence the colour in the flooring, can influence your wall colour. And I use this analogy quite a lot. If you have a red leather lounge, sometimes throughout the day, your white wall can potentially look pink. And then the other place to test as well is having, here's your wall, here's your ceiling. This time putting your sample up against here, which is touching your ceiling, and looking at it in daylight. So you're seeing how it's going to work in daylight, but also of an evening with your lighting on. So seeing how the colour looks with artificial light. Really important, because lighting plays a big part when you are selecting whites, and your whites can change dramatically. I hope that helps. Okay, I have, what do we have here? Okay, so hi Renee, thank you very much for joining us. I was just reading both of your comments there. So you're saying, hi everyone, I'm moving into a very modern house, dark grey floors. I'd love to know a nice white that ties in both modern and vintage together. The house is modern, monument grey on the exterior, a flat white inside on the walls, and a black kitchen. I have heaps of gold frames, antique paintings, and would love to have a modern yet classic look. Thank you. So we're talking about a white for inside, I'm presuming, Renee. So a beautiful white that you could, a flat white inside on the walls. Let me just make sure I am giving you the right advice. I'm going to assume it is for interior. If not, please pop something into the feed and I'll certainly talk to that. But for an interior, and listening to what you have, I would be looking at a white that tends to be a little bit more neutral. And immediately I think, and it's going to look fantastic with all of the elements that you're describing. There's a couple here. It depends how white or how light you want to go. So I'll give you a few. So, and it's probably, looking at it in this light, it's not going to give you the true indication. So I would recommend, it is interior, thank you. I would recommend, again, having a look at a swatch or grabbing a sample pot, because the colour is going to look completely different to what I'm about to show you. So the first one I would have a look at is a colour, yeah, you're not even, third one down, it's a colour called Alpine Snow. This is a beautiful, soft white that's going to play to your, for a, you know, sort of a modern and vintage look. So it's going to work really, really well. And it's going to pair back beautifully with grey floors, and even, you know, taking into consideration the external colour and also your gold frames. Now, if you're wanting something that has a little bit more, so the first one was Alpine Snow. There is another one which I do adore, which is the second one down. It's called Aspen Snow. And again, a beautiful soft neutral, but it's going to work really well in your space. Now, there is another one that I would also suggest. So there's those two, and then where are we? Here we go. There's another one here, which again is a beautiful soft neutral, perhaps a little bit more, when I say colour, but you know, perhaps it's slightly more intense than the other two that I have shown you, but it's the top colour here, and it is called South Pole. And I know that that's just going to sing with the elements that you've described, beautiful gold, etc. And that would look lovely. It's light enough that you could take it onto the ceilings as well, or it would look lovely with white ceilings. You could choose to do your doors and trims in the same colour, but obviously using a product that's applicable to that, something like a water-based enamel. And you could do that in perhaps a semi-gloss or a gloss. The minute that you gloss a colour up, because of the way the light reflects, it slightly intensifies. So you could keep it the same, or you could do white doors and trims up against that as well, and it would work beautifully. And the beauty of using a water-based enamel, for everybody that's listening and embarking on a painting journey, a water-based enamel is fantastic for many reasons. First of all, it has very low VOC, so that smell that's attributed to, say, with an old-fashioned oil-based enamel, the smell that sort of lingers for a long time. They're known as VOCs, which are volatile organic compounds emitted into the air as your paint dries. So for a water-based enamel, very, very minimal VOCs. It has all of your, so our water-based enamel has mold inhibitors as well, which is really important. It's been endorsed by Sensitive Choice. So for anybody that suffers from asthma or allergies, it's perfect and safe to use. And the other thing is a water-based enamel is non-yellowing. So if you're doing a white on white aesthetic that you're wanting to create, and you want your trims, or you want that white to stay white, or you want the color that, that soft color, for example, we're talking about South Pole here, if you're tinting the water-based enamel to South Pole, you want it to stay true to color. And that's what a water-based enamel is going to give you. So that's really important. Like, I think it's important to understand, you're creating that wonderful color scheme, and you want to ensure that that white is going to stay white. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen new houses that have been painted, and they've been painted in, water-based, so something like a broad wall interior, which is water-based, and then an oil-based has been used on doors and trims, and they tend to golden up quite quickly. Okay, let me just have a look. And sorry, I'm just reading questions as I go. Thanks, Renee. I hope that helps you. Oh, Charles, you've just joined us. Hi, Charles. Thank you for joining us. I did talk to your question earlier, and white house is a perfect colour for you to use. And, I started off our session with your question, so I'm happy to... What else are you asking? Let me just see. I'm looking for a very light grey for my walls throughout the house. Is white house a grey or more of a beige? It's more of a neutral, Charles, so it's going to work really, really well within your space, having looked at your photos. If you're wanting something that's slightly more greyed off, I would suggest having a look at something like... Let's have a look here. You could have a look at something like Dusty Silver, although that tends to be more of a truer grey. I think White House is good because it's because it has that neutral undertone. It works really, really well with the other elements that you have. Let me just see another grey that I could recommend for you. You could also look at, I was going to say barely beige, that may be a little bit too dark. You could also look at a colour called Platinum. That's getting a little bit more, you can sort of see the second one up here, Charles. Although that has a little bit more colour to it, if you like. But I think that White House would work really, really well for your space. My only suggestion would be, and I've talked about this, so sorry everybody if you're going to hear me say this again, but would be to test it via a sample pot within your space. So getting a large piece of cardboard, 1 metre by 1 metre square, brushing out 3 coats, once dry, testing it in areas within your space. So having a look, putting it here's your wall, here's your floor, putting the sample down so it's sitting near the floor so you can see how it's going to look against your flooring. And also then putting it high, so here's your ceiling, here's your wall, putting it up here against the ceiling so that you can see how the colour works in your space with the lighting that you have. Anyway, I'm happy to talk to you further about that as well. So pop something else to the feed. Very happy to answer any more questions. Okay, what else do we have here? Hi, Anara. Thank you very much for joining us. So let me just see what you've written here. Do you think walls and sliding doors should always have the same colour in a small apartment? At the moment, the walls are white and sliding doors are creamy colour. I'm worried if I paint the doors white as well, everything is going to be too white, like in a hospital. So, and so I'm just reading your further question here. Okay, so there's two ways you can look at it. Having noted that you have a small apartment, so what you can do is you don't have to use a white that's clinical, that's going to make it feel like a hospital. I'd suggest having a white that has a little bit of something to it. Like there's a beautiful white if you're wanting a white but not wanting it to be cold and clinical. Have a look at Taubmans Crisp White. It's our #1 white and it is just the most stunning white. It performs really well in all environments, to be honest, and it has a tint in it that is called raw umber, so it gives off a very soft glow. So it's not that clinical white that you would ultimately find in a hospital, if you like. So, and because a lot of those whites tend to have more of a blue undertone, so they can be quite cold, but this white's amazing. And what I suggest is when you're working with a smaller space, if you keep that white and white aesthetic that we've been talking about. So if you keep, for example, you could have your walls and ceilings, doors and trims in the same color. And what happens when you do that is the eye doesn't have anywhere to stop. So for example, if I've got a small space and I'm wanting to create the illusion of more space and make my space feel bigger, if I paint all of those areas in the same color but using applicable products, so you'd be using a flat for your ceiling because you don't want any glancing light, and if you've got any imperfections, having a flat paint helps to hide imperfections, which is really important. And then on your walls you could use something like a low sheen, and then as I was just talking about before, for doors and trims using a water-based enamel, and you can use that in a semi-gloss or a gloss depending on what your preference is. But using one color up and over, what happens is the eye has nowhere to stop. So the eye tends to just continually look up and over, and it's not sizing up the space. When you have two different colors, for example, say you have a white ceiling and then you have, you can still have a white on the walls, but something that has a little bit more tint to it or a little bit more color, the eye will stop where there's a change in color. So for example, where the wall meets the ceiling or the cornice is kind of where the eye stops, and it looks around and not on purpose, but subconsciously kind of looks around and goes, oh, okay, this is a small space. But when there is one color up and over, the eye doesn't really have anywhere to stop. It just continually looks. So that is probably the easiest way to try and describe it, but it tends to work really well and it tends to create that illusion of more space. So to answer your question, having a white and having your doors and trims or a sliding door the same color, I think would work really, really well. Given that you're saying you have a smaller space, it's going to help to open up that space. So that would be my recommendation, and I would have a look at, as I mentioned before, a color called Taubmans Crisp White as a starting point. A beautiful white, sort of very soft glow. It's got this softness to it. Look, it's one of my go-tos whenever we renovate and paint. I'm always using Crisp White because I know how well it performs internally and in all environments, whether you've got a lot of sunlight or whether you've got a space that lacks light. I hope that helps. If you're wanting any further information, please pop something into the feed and I'll be very happy to answer some more questions. Let me just see what else I have here. What else have I got? Oh, hi Kingy, thank you very much for joining us. So you're saying, I'm looking for a white to contrast with silver mist, please. Let me just see if I've got silver mist here. If not, I will. I think it might be in another one of my brochures here. I would say I'm going to have to park that question, sorry, and what I'll do is when we finish streaming in a few minutes, I will look that up. I've got a lot more colour literature. I just don't have everything on my desk. I'll find that colour and I'll give you a fantastic white that's going to work really, really well for you. Just reading through, can you? Hi Janine, thank you very much for joining us. Sorry, I'm just going through my questions to make sure I'm not doubling up and repeating myself. So you're saying, hi Fiona, can you recommend a warm or neutral white exterior that has a lower reflective level of 85 or under? We're thinking of cradle white for interior and also thought this could work on the exterior, thank you. So you're wanting something that has a lower reflective level, so the LRV of 85 or under, and a warm or neutral white exterior. Okay, so I guess, Janine, the other question please is, can you please tell me what else the colour is going to be paired back with? So so what I mean by that is when I'm thinking of colours for external application, I like to take into consideration kind of the whole picture. So I guess, you know, I like to sort of think about what the style of the home is and, you know, what the other elements consist of. So for example, the colour of your window frames, the colour of your roof, even the colour of your garage door, and if there are any other colours that are going to feature within your design. So by that I mean you may have some type of stone or brick, etc. So if I can just have a little bit more information, please, I can certainly then think about giving you obviously a white that's going to fit within your LRV specification, but also ensuring that the white has I know you've said you'd like a warm or a neutral, but just to ensure that I give you that right colour tone that's going to work with what else you have. So that would be fantastic if you can give me just a little bit more information, please. Thank you. Oh, Marina, thank you very much. Perfect answer about smaller apartment colour tricks. Thank you. Look, it works a treat. I am a lover of doing what's called colour drenching, and I mean, even though we're doing it with white, if you like, but it works really, really well to help to keep the space open, or keep it feeling open, and especially when we're working with a smaller space. Oh, thank you, Janine, for coming back to me. So you're saying a shale grey roof, fantastic. Beige stone pillars, beige chalk front door, white Dover garage door, weatherboard, new home build, Bradman's, white windows and door frames. Fantastic. So we've got shale grey, Dover white. Let me just grab these colours. It is so warm here at the moment. You have to excuse me. I look like I feel like I'm drowning. It's just, we've had unseasonably very warm weather, and unfortunately I didn't put on a fan, and it's just like, wow, I didn't realise how warm it was. Okay, so, and we've got beige chalk. Let me just grab that colour as well. Number 7. Oh, fantastic. Very nice. Lovely. Okay. That's beautiful. And then we're wanting a neutral or a warm white for external application. Let me have a look. Oh, that's quite nice. I'm going to my favourites that I love. Alpine Snow looks quite nice. I just wonder whether we should dial it up slightly, given, yeah, Aspen Snow looks beautiful with the colours that you have selected. I'm probably going to struggle to put all of this up on screen, but I will do my best. And it's going to, when you're putting it against white, etc., it just, yeah, it looks like a lovely collection of colours here. And the LRV is 78. So this would be something to have a look at. Let me just do my best. And hopefully you can see it. But I'm happy to pop, when I finish streaming in a moment, I'm happy to pop a link to the colour into the feed for you. Let's just see. I think I need more hands. Okay, can you see? Oh, you're probably going to struggle to see that. So Aspen Snow is kind of over here, but they work like the colours together. That's a bit better. The colours together work really, really well. That's a beautiful colour scheme. So try that, Janine. I think that's going to look fantastic. Really good starting point. And I'm wondering whether that would work as well. There's another colour that you could also have a look at called Pebble Bay Quarter. And again, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to hold this up, but we'll give it a try. They actually look beautiful. They work really, really well. I really do need more hands. There we go. So you've got your shale grey, you've got Dover white, beige chalk, and then your Pebble Bay Quarter sitting there as well. They look superb. Probably looking at it from the screen, it's not going to look as great as what it looks here. But what I'll do is I'll pop those two into the feed, Janine, and you can have a look at those, have a look at the links, and you know, you could probably even go into, let me just think, Pebble Bay Quarter and Aspen Snow are both on our colour wall, so you'd be able to go perhaps down to your local Bunnings and grab a colour swatch of those as well, and even a sample pot just to have a look. Okay, so that concludes tonight's session. That doesn't mean I am going away. I'm still going to be here to continue to answer questions. Oh, Janine, no, it doesn't look too... with your other colours, it's not looking too grey at all, but I'm happy to... I'll send you some links to it. It looks fantastic, but that's what I see. I understand everyone sees colour differently, that's for sure, but it doesn't look too grey at all. It looks fantastic, works really, really well. Okay, so that's it for this evening. Thank you very much for joining us. I am going to be sitting, I'm going to stop streaming, but I'll be sitting behind the computer for a further half an hour or so to answer any further questions. And Janine, I'll pop some links in, etc. to you. And I also did promise a few other colours that I would have a look at because I don't have the actual colour swatch in this fan deck. So I'll get to that in a moment, but thanks for joining us. As I said, I'm still online for another half an hour or so. Any more questions, pop them into the feed. And as I mentioned earlier when we first started, now's the time if you have any images that you'd like to share with us, pop those into the feed and I'll do my best to help you with any queries that you do have. Thanks for joining us. We're back again, same time, same place next week. Until then, everybody, stay safe. And as I always say, happy painting. Thanks very much. Bye.